On the next episode of Married People's Business,
we are not, and I repeat, we are not going to talk about Will Smith. Why are we not going to talk about Will Smith?
Well, in this episode, we're going to highlight the positive aspects of marriage, collaborations, and partnerships.
You're going to hear about Denzel Washington. You're going to hear about Nicole Kidman. You're going to hear about Samuel Screaming Jackson. And we're just going to have some fun on this podcast and highlight the positivity of the Oscars and married couples and collaborations.
So stay tuned.
Wow, I love those applause.
I know you do.
Every time I hear the applause, you know what time that is. That means that we're back with what?
Married People's Business.
Married People's Business.
Yes, I'm Shalise Tolbert.
And I'm Michael Tolbert. And we're here today again to bring you another show and another episode of Married People's Business. And we always try to keep it fresh for you all. We always try to talk about things that impact collaborations, partnerships, people that decide to go into business that are either married or not married, family members. So we got some current events to talk about. But one of the things that we are not going to talk about today is what? What are we not going to talk about today?
We are not talking about Will Smith today.
Absolutely not. We are not talking about Will Smith today. And we're going to tell you why throughout the course of this show, why we're not going to talk about Will Smith. Because we got a lot of other things to talk about, and I'm sure the world has just been consumed with the slap that was heard all across the world. And we saw a lot of media coverage, and we actually had some people that reached out to us and asked us to talk about this Will Smith issue in light of the fact that we have a podcast that deals with married people. And one of the things that Shalise and I did when that conversation was approached or that conversation was brought to us, we said absolutely not. We're not going to talk about Will Smith. And that is the title of this podcast. We're not going to talk about Will Smith because I'm sure that everyone in America and the world is tired of talking about him. And frankly, I'm tired of talking about him. And there are some reasons why we're not going to talk about him. You want to share those with the audience?
Well, as we are not talking about him, we like to highlight positive things. And that's what this show is about, as you said. So one of the things that I think we definitely need to talk about is highlighting the positives that came out of the Oscars with married couples.
Yeah, you know what? And you couldn't have said it any better than that. And there's a lot of reasons why we're not going to talk about that incident. And we believe as being married couples and being married to you for about, 15 years now?
You should have that number right.
I do have it right.
Okay.
But, one of the things that I always try to focus on in our marriage is the positivity that comes along with being married to you. And I'm not going to actually sit up here and lie to the people and say that being married is easy, because it's not.
No, it takes work, but that doesn't mean that it's a negative thing that it takes work.
It does take work, and I think one of the things that makes marriage a lot easier is to always remain positive and to focus on positive relationships and surround yourselves as a couple, and as whether it's just, even if you're not in business, but if you are in business, you're going to hit a lot of tough roads. And one of the things that you're going to have to do is to surround yourself with positive images, positive thoughts, positive relationships, positive advice from different folks. So that's what this show is going to be dedicated towards, is giving people not the negative spin of the Oscars, but the positive relationships that a lot of people saw or didn't see that just kind of flew under the radar.
So then, I guess I'd like to start out with, the main 2 awards that are given out that everybody waits for and they do near the end of the show. And that's Best Actress and Best Actor.
You're talking about the Oscars, right?
Yeah, the Oscars, I'm sorry. And this year, the 2022 Oscars, we had Jessica Chastain, who won for Best Actress in this Tammy Faye movie, which I haven't seen, but I know it was on HBO, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, oh, I should probably, check that out. And just kind of slipped my mind because I don't watch that much TV. But I want to point out that Jessica Chastain is married.
Really?
She's been married for 6 years to her husband, Gianluca, who I believe is a director and a producer. So, they're both kind of in the same business, and they seem to have, successful careers. So I would imagine that in their marriage, they have to encourage one another, support one another. They're sustaining, a married relationship in Hollywood for 6 years so far.
Yeah, and I think that the important part of this podcast and this show, which is we're not going to talk about Will, is you just pointed out something that I think is very important for people that are in business together, particularly married people that are in business together, is sometimes I think that the media doesn't necessarily highlight the power that comes along from being together.
Right. There's a powerful impact of having a relationship,
Absolutely.
a marriage, because, relationships happen all the time, but a marriage is a little more solid.
Absolutely right. And I think that one of the things that we found in preparation for today and to do this show was looking at the Oscars and kind of dissecting it and looking at the two top awards and looking behind the curtain and seeing who these people are. And you pointed out something that was very interesting, which is a point I didn't know, which was Jessica Chastain, I think is how you say that name.
Yes.
She's married. She's been married for about 6 years, happily married. I know we said we're not going to talk about Will, but we're not going to talk about that incident. But Will Smith, who won Best Actor, has been married. He's married currently. And the two top slots for those award shows came from people that are in established relationships.
Right, the institution of marriage.
That's right.
I think the institution of marriage itself plays a role in how successful people can be in those relationships.
Right. So I would like to think, and I think the data would support this, that there is a direct correlation between partnerships and being together and pooling not only your financial resources, but your mental resources together and kind of rowing in the same direction.
Right.
And I think the empirical data would support that. People that there's a book that I read that's one of my favorite books. It's called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
And I read that book a while ago. I think we both read it together.
Yeah, I think if we've been married 15 years, we probably read that book maybe our second or third year of marriage.
We sure did. It was I can't remember who recommended that book to us, but it was one of the best books that I've ever read. And one of the statistics that stuck out in that book that really changed my life and made me think about marriage differently was showing the prototypical American millionaire.
Yes.
And one of the important stats in that book was that the average millionaire was married.
Yeah.
You remember that stat?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And the thing about that book that was unique, as it's called Millionaire Next Door, it was not talking about celebrities. It was not talking about the people that you see in the news. It's talking about your everyday person that might live next door to you that is actually a millionaire. And it's not out of the norm for this to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that the important part of why we even decided to do this show was because we realize, and we want to help the world realize the power of partnerships.
And stability in those partnerships.
Absolutely. The
Right.
power of partnerships, the power of coming together, whether you're married or not, but particularly married,
Right.
and what it could mean for you and your generation line.
Right. And I think even if it's not a marriage that we're talking about, there's a certain level of support that comes along with being in a partnership, whether it's in business, whether you're together as a couple. But there's a certain amount of support that comes along with it, whether it's emotional and, as you said before, financial. And that then contributes to the success of each individual in that relationship. in that partnership or collaboration.
Yeah, and I think that another statistic that I think jumps out at you, and most people know this statistic, is that 50% of folks are divorced.
Yeah.
So that's a negative stat, but I think that's an important stat to show that a lot of times when you are in a marriage or you're in a partnership, most of the people that are around you and that are giving you information and talking to you about some of the things that you're going to, there is a high probability that those people might not be in partnerships or married. So why is that? That's a key point, I think, for people to understand, because you have to be able to, if you're going to be in a successful partnership, business or marriage, you have to get good information from a variety of different sources. You have to vet.
Right. And I think that it's key to look to others that are in similar situations as you are, that have achieved some things that you may be trying to achieve. So that makes me think instantly, as we're not talking about the actual incident, but Denzel Washington, as he gave some sage advice to Will Smith.
That was the most powerful part of the Oscars, in my opinion. And I believe Denzel's comment was, "The devil comes at you at your highest point." Yeah. And, basically what he was saying was, whenever you're about to achieve something great, whenever you're about to accomplish a great feat, that's when the devil shows up. So anytime that you start to struggle or start to have problems in your marriage or in your business or in your partnership, that's when the devil rears his head. That's when you hear that little voice in your head that tells you to do something stupid. Or that's when somebody comes along that tries to entice you to do something stupid. So that's why it's extremely important for us to understand the statistics and sometimes the origins of where information is coming from.
Right. And I say that because Denzel Washington and his wife Pauletta have been married over 30 years. Positive couple that you see in Hollywood. Right. It does not get enough applause. Along the same lines, Samuel L. Jackson and LaTanya Richardson Jackson, married for almost 42 years. So these are positive couples that are not highlighted for the positivity of their relationships and the hardships that they may have endured, but they stayed together, and look at the successes they've had. Denzel has won an Oscar before. Samuel L. Jackson at the 2022 Oscars was given the honorary Oscar for his lifetime achievement in movies, presented by Denzel Washington.
Absolutely. And you know what's so powerful about that moment and those two men is that right when everything was falling apart, the person that stepped in and gave the advice to put everything back on track was a man that had been married forever.
Right. And you know what it makes me think of as well? When you're talking about surrounding yourself by positive people or positive couples that you want to get sage advice from, to help you get through whatever it is you've got set as your goals and achieving those things. It makes me think of Magic Johnson and how he brings the couples together to celebrate, and they go on vacation
on the yacht.
together.
Yeah. We need to get that invitation. Magic, if you listening,
I'm telling you,
we need to get on the yacht.
We would like to vacation with you and Miss Cookie.
Yes. We would love that.
Yes.
And I promise, I will tip handsomely. I might not tip like you, but I'll put something on it. I'll put 5 on it, Magic.
We will make it happen. We met you when you came to Gary. You were supporting our Gary schools in the food programs, and
Cookie.
We'll have fun, Miss Cookie.
Cookie.
I know you can make this happen. So
now with a name like Cookie.
Stop it. That's not a real name.
That's not a real name?
No, I can't remember what her real name is. I want to say it's something.
But the fact that that's her nickname, that's very Gary-ish.
Well, it's so funny you say that because my great uncle was married to a woman that they called Cookie. That was her nickname. My cousin's mom's nickname is Cookie.
So my point is Cookie.
Yes.
And Magic. We would fit right in. We would get along on the yacht.
Yes.
Your name Cookie, my wife name Shay Rob.
Stop it.
Your name Magic, my name Mike T. We'll have it popping wherever you decide to go.
You're his favorite Laker.
Yes, that is true.
But anyway, as we digress, but that's another positive couple.
Yes, it is.
They both have businesses. They are both very successful. They encourage other couples. You know, and in their own right, they encourage individuals. You know,
and by example too. Just we don't know them personally, but they are an inspiration to us because of what we've seen them build together. So,
because you read his book and I read hers.
I did. There 32 Ways to Be a Champion. Yeah. I read his book. Yeah.
And her book was Believing in Magic.
So you got to surround yourself around good people.
Yeah.
And what else? We had so many. The Oscars had so many good, stable, married partnerships that this whole incident that we're not going to talk about overshadowed. So you had we had Nicole Kidman. And her husband Keith Urban, who had been married for about 15 years.
Right.
Yeah,
you know, they attended, and you know, that's a positive couple. They're always giving advice, right?
Yeah, they are. And you know, we did some research on them, and we found some very good tips that Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman gave to People Magazine. They did an interview years ago where they talked about some of the things that helped them build a strong, vibrant relationship. And I want to share some of them with the listeners. One of the things that they talked about was celebrating each other's accomplishments. And I just thought that was very powerful because I try to do that with Shalise. You know, anything that she does or any little thing that she does, it's not little in my eyes. It's big because I love her and that's my wife. And I want to always encourage her to do the best that she can be. So I celebrate her accomplishments. One of the things that they talked about Nicole Kidman and her husband was sharing a life mantra. I thought that was powerful. What did you think about that?
Well, I think that's something that definitely shows that you're talking to one another and communicating well with one another to determine what your beliefs and shared thoughts are, to come up with something that you base your life on together. A mantra is something that, you know, you are looking, this is how we are going to live. This is what we put in front of us to help us live positively.
Yes, yeah. And Denzel, who again was at the Oscars with his beautiful wife, also gave an interview to Afro Culture years ago where he gave his tips on how to have a successful partnership. Some of the things was listening to his wife. Mm-hmm. Duh. I think I do that 100% all the time, right? Don't I? I think I do. So, you know, working together, being friends, sacrifice for the good of the family, encouraging each other to flourish. Those were his top things that he kind of threw out to Afro culture in terms of how to have a successful marriage and partnerships.
Well, I just want to highlight just a couple of other couples that were very positive couples at the Oscars.
Yeah, who do you got?
Will Packer and his wife Heather.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Produced and directed the Oscars this year.
Oh,
He's
my God.
the producer of the Oscars.
He's
first
married?
African American to produce the Oscars. Yes.
Okay,
Will
all right.
Packer is married. He and Heather have been married for 7 years. And, you know, here's another positive relationship. This guy is achieving all kinds of things. His movies are making millions of dollars, and he's getting great exposure. And he's the first African American to produce the Oscars. Then you got Danny Glover and his wife, Eliane Caballero.
The lemonade is not cold enough.
It's not cold enough. Look here, mister. You quoting Color Purple, that's not it. We're not finna go down the Color Purple road. That will spiral us away. I love
the Color Purple. Danny Glover, that's my guy. Shout out to Danny Glover, the Color Purple.
What's Mister's last name?
His last name in the Color Purple?
Yes.
I don't know. What was it?
Johnson.
Mr. Johnson? I couldn't think of Mr. Johnson. That's the most common name in the world.
Because they just called him Mister.
All I remember was, cut me and I'll kill you.
She about to shave Mister. You got me. I told you this. Color Purple will spiral us away. And then you mentioned already Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman that attended. We also had Kevin Costner.
Ghost and I.
No.
Oh, that's not Kevin Costner?
Yeah, that's him. I'm just saying, don't sing. That was a bodyguard. Stop.
We'll always love
I need to control the board so I can play the music and the booze in the background that's singing it. Baby, I love you, but keep your day job.
Oh,
his wife is Christine Baumgartner.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been married 17 years. And then John Leguizamo and his wife, Justine Maurer, 19 years. They attended. So it was a lot of stable relationships at the Oscars that, you know, these things don't get highlighted. So we want to highlight these positive things. And I think that there was some advice also that Samuel Jackson had given some years ago.
Yeah, he was at the Oscars, right?
Right,
yeah.
right. Oh, yeah. Well, he got that award, Lifetime Achievement Award, but that was at a separate ceremony that they did untelevised the day before, earlier, or something like that. But his advice when he gave an interview to Vanity Fair was make a pact to stay together.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Very powerful. Not only in marriage, but in partnerships.
Business.
If you're going to be, successful in your business, make that pact, which means you're talking to each other. You're communicating with each other. So.
Yeah, that is just powerful. And, in Samuel Jackson, for a man that screams in all his movies, I would have expected him to have 22 things like, Emma Effa, you need to stay together.
Stop it.
But he, see, this is a Christian show, so I couldn't get into full Samuel Jackson mode.
That was good enough. So, that was.
Did you like my Samuel Jackson impression?
That was good. That was great.
All right.
You
But the
sang,
great,
and now you've done Samuel.
The great Samuel Jackson had the simplest, quietest quote that you can give about partnerships and staying together. Make a pact to stay together. And why would you do that? You do that because, again, partnerships, marriages, those are all collaborations. Those are all the foundation to generational, life-changing wealth, period.
And that is a great transition to what I was just thinking about, too. What are the financial benefits of, coupling up or, I guess, collaborating?
Yeah, well, a couple of the financial benefits is we got a chance to see them, and we see it every year at the Oscars. We see people that are at the pinnacle of their career achieving some great things because they have that backbone to support them. But the more tangible benefits are simply coupling your resources together. I think there's statistics out there that talk about married people accumulate wealth much faster than single people at a rate of about 77%. That's a statistic that's been out there for a long time.
Right. So I think that, but at the same time, I don't want to discourage those who are not married to think that this cannot happen for you. So, coupling up in the sense of, as we've talked about, the collaborations, the partnerships, when you are dedicated to one another, then I think that this can work as well.
Absolutely. And, there was one stat that I thought was interesting was the tax benefits of, and I'm going to give a disclaimer, y'all. I'm not a tax professional. I only stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, baby.
Oh, gosh.
But I will say that there are some tax benefits that you could probably read up on if you talk to your own accountant, because I'm going to give a full disclaimer. Y'all not going to be coming to married people's business talking about, Michael told me to do X, Y, and Z, and I got hit with this tax bill. Because I'm going to say, y'all didn't hear the disclaimer, because I am not a tax professional. But generally, married people who file jointly, they have straight, great tax benefits. So those are some other things that you can focus on in a positive. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So I think we've covered a lot.
We sure
today.
have. We sure have.
I just want to make sure that we express that this was all about positivity, all about the benefits.
Yes, all about the benefits. And we did not talk about Will. We stayed tried and true. And we kept it positive. We kept it classy, y'all. And that's what we want you guys to do. We want you to keep it classy. And we want you to today and forevermore, we want you to continue to be positive, continue to focus on things that are going to mentally and physically enhance you and your families. And if you go back to our very first podcast, our show, we said that we were going to keep it classy and keep it positive. I think Shalise said we were going to be messy, but what we were going to be? Messy about success.
Absolutely.
Not the stuff that you've been hearing the last couple of weeks. And we're going to stay tried and true to that message because we want to grow and we want to grow with you. And we just want to enrich your lives, and we want you to enrich the lives of others with the information that we're giving. So Shalise, you want to close us out?
So remember to keep God first. We want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Married People's Business. Also, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, And I am forgetting one, dear. I'm sorry. Oh, wow. Where you find your podcast, search for us.
That's all right. We got it.
I thank God for the blessings, and thank you all for tuning in.
You told Harpo to beat.